Hi, welcome to Tyler and Bursch. We are a business law firm handling litigation and transactional work. I'm here with my partner, Nathan Klein. And Nathan, we wanted to talk about choosing lawyers.
Sure.
Okay. I often get the question from people about, or a comment, we want a pit bull.
Sure.
We want a pit bull for a lawyer. Do you really want a pit bull?
Well, it's an important question to ask, and there can be pros and cons to a pit bull. Everybody wants an aggressive lawyer that's going to fight for them, and that's true. But you also got to watch out with the pit bulls. You need an attorney that's going to represent your interests vigorously, but also you need somebody that's going to get along with opposing counsel. You need somebody that's going to present well to the judges.
Why is it important to get along with opposing counsel?
Sure. Everybody thinks of opposing counsel as kind of their enemy. They represent the bad guys that are against you. I get that. But litigation is a two-party game. When you have a better relationship with opposing counsel, it tends to make the case progress a little smoother, which in turn will translate to lower costs.
Discovery is a good example.
Yeah.
I've experienced so many times that when you're seeking documents from the other side, that if you're just a jerk, or the other lawyer is a jerk, it just increases the cost of litigation because you end up having to file motions.
Yep.
And that translates into thousands of dollars more than necessary to be spent in litigation, right?
Absolutely. Every time you got to run to court to get judicial intervention, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars, like you mentioned. And the better relationship you have with opposing counsel, the less likely you're going to need to run to court over every little battle. There's a big battle, but make it about the actual issues in the case. Don't make it about all these little issues throughout the case. And a bulldog's more likely to make the smaller issues into bigger issues.
So Nathan's been our partner coming up on about 8 years now and working in litigation. I've been litigating for 26 years, I think, at this point in time. And, one of the things that I have seen is that when you get too invested in a case personally, you are so invested in a case, it's hard to give good competent and objective advice to your client because sometimes you can't see weaknesses in your own case and maybe you should settle.
Yep.
So, and also sometimes, this pit bull takes a bite and they bite into the case and they just won't let it go, despite maybe it's the client's best interest to accept a settlement offer that comes from opposing counsel.
Right. And you want an attorney that wants to win the case for you. That's the whole reason you're in litigation. But there comes a point in time where the attorneys will almost take it too personally. Like they view it as their personal loss. At the end of the day, when the case is over, the attorneys go home and the client's the one left with the result. So you still want an attorney that's going to give you objectively good advice and is ultimately out to meet your goals, not just get their own personal win.
When I started practicing law, I practiced with a lawyer that had been 30 years my senior. He's since passed away, but I can remember one of the things that he would often say, it just isn't like it used to be. Gentlemanly, practicing law, professionalism, lawyers getting along. And, it's so refreshing when I'm working with an opposing counsel where we can legitimately talk about our differences. We can talk about discovery issues. And we can agree when necessary to go to court. Sometimes you might have a pending motion in a different case. You might be backed up on a case. And if you've got a reasonable lawyer on the other side, you're able to call them up or they call you up and there's this professional courtesy. And you give each other a little bit of time so that you can prepare whatever documents you might need to prepare and not be limited to this sometimes deadlines that are given to you. And so I think that's really important, getting along with the other lawyer. And unfortunately, this idea of I want a shark, I want a pit bull, that's not typically the best idea. Let's jump to the next thing. When looking for a law firm, big firm, small firm, medium-sized firm, what do you think? When you're looking at a big firm, what are some of the consequences you face?
Sure. Well, with a big firm, one of the big things you are going to be worried about is big firms come bigger bills. They're going to have higher rates. They're usually in bigger cities where the rates are generally higher. And the minimum billing requirements for attorneys, for paralegals, and other staff are usually quite a bit higher than they are for a medium or smaller size firm. Usually billable hours are going to be a minimum of 40 hours a week, which Not every hour an attorney's worked in the day is a billable hour. It usually translates into 60, 70, even 80 hours a week of actual work.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen you go to work for a big firm, and especially these new lawyers, they're starting out billing 80 hours a week. I mean, working 80 hours a week in order to bill 40. And so it seems practically impossible often. So, I hate to say it, but sometimes you see bills and they're just shocking. And the amount of time that's put into it. I think that in our firm, we have, where are we at? Somewhere in excess of 10 to 12, 13 lawyers in our organization. And, we're a decent sized firm. We're not big, we're not small. And so, our minimum billables are typically in the range of 28 to 32 because we value a family life. We want people to be happy and not always be arguing and fighting and hate everybody else. And so there's not such an incredible pressure to, frankly, overbill a client, right?
Exactly. And one of the other questions that you'll get sometimes with the big firms is, do they attract better talent? Do they have the best lawyers? I will say this: in the big firms, they generally are going to get the top of the classes. They're going to get the Ivy League schools. They're going to attract the more academically qualified, I guess, minds out of law school. But at the end of the day, the grades and what you learn in law school only go so far. The real training of becoming a lawyer doesn't happen until you actually step into a firm. And oftentimes there are many small lawyers smaller firms or medium-sized firms. They have lawyers that are every bit, if not more competent than the best and brightest minds at the big law firms. At the end of the day, it's about street smarts and common sense as well to pair with that knowledge of the law.
Yeah, you can have the smartest brainiac coming out of law school that, top of the class, but just does not have any personality, doesn't have any ability to connect with their clients or work with opposing counsel. You're right. It's the street smarts that's incredibly important. Basic common sense. And in our firm, we fight some of the biggest law firms, and we go up against them. We've won. I can think of one particular case where supposedly it was the largest law firm in the world, and we got a $3 million judgment out of them. When they filed a motion for preliminary injunction against us, we countered with our own. We won, and they had to turn around and beg us to settle the case.
Sure.
And that happens. And so it's not always the biggest law firm that's going to give you the best talent.
Right.
How about sole practitioners? I don't want to discredit sole practitioners. I started out as one. But one of the things I can say briefly is that I know with sole practitioners it's tough. You get an ex parte motion that's due by noon tomorrow. In the meantime, I've got another massive brief I have due tomorrow. Sometimes you're stuck, and it's kind of hard. So we've always valued being able to have other attorneys as backup. I think also strategically it's important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that's helpful about working with a team of lawyers is one attorney comes up with a strategy, and you get to bounce it off of other people. And somebody might have had a similar case or an experience with the judge that you're in front of and said, oh, here's a different tactic you could try in this particular instance. And that's something that a sole practitioner isn't necessarily going to have because there's just nobody around them to work with. Now, they're usually going to be pretty experienced. They're very hands-on. They're going to handle your file. They're usually going to be easy to get a hold of. But at the end of the day, they are a one-man shop. So if they're busy on something else and another emergency comes in, like you said, they can get stretched pretty thin.
Competency and experience. Important?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course, right? That's a gimme.
Yeah, you want to talk to your attorney about the cases that they're handling. You don't want to, if you've got an attorney that's an employment defense attorney and you've got a complicated probate matter, probably not the right fit for you. You might like the person and have hey, I really got a good vibe off of them. But it is important to make sure that they have experience in the area. Ask them about the results. Ask them about the cases that they work on. What percentage of their practice is devoted to the area that your case is about? You want to feel comfortable that your attorney knows what they're doing. All attorneys have the ability to look up the rules, to look up the procedures, to figure out what the law is. But even in depending on the types of cases there's lots of nuances to the way things practice. The rules that might apply in a real estate litigation are going to be a little bit different from the probate compared to a construction defect litigation. And there's all these sort of, well, this is the way that we practice, that I guess these unwritten rules that if you're not regularly practicing there, you're not necessarily going to know those.
Yeah. Last thing, lawyers' rating services. I have received emails from these organizations like Super Lawyers and Avo and Martindale Hubbell, and there's these different services that do rating. There's some services that say, look, sign up with us, and we will advertise for you. We'll put you out there, and it's going to cost you X amount of dollars, $1,000, $2,000, or more in some cases, and you're basically buying a rating. It seems. I mean, I can't say that entirely, but sometimes what happens is you're paying in order to get rated. The other thing that happens is that, consider this: we are lawyers. We take one side of an issue often. And a lot of times these rating services, what they do is they look to other lawyers in the area. Often, what I've seen, lawyers who have no experience with you in your practice, in the sense that they might find lawyers that have never litigated against you, but they're rating you as a lawyer. And,
Sure.
and often they're rating you based upon what they think of you. They may not like you, so you get a bad rating. Frankly, for us, we have a nonprofit, Advocates for Faith and Freedom, that we run. It coincides with our firm. So I've always avoided it, because I know that often what we're doing in the nonprofit side causes a lot of people to just, frankly, not like us. And so it's those rating services are difficult. I think the best thing to do is to be looking at reputation from people in the community, from people who've used your service, as opposed to going to look at those rating services. So for 25 years, I did one time, when I first became a lawyer, I paid for one of the rating services, and I was brand new, so I got I forget what it was, good, above average, about the best I could get for being a one-year lawyer. And but ever since, I've avoided it altogether. Well, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you want to contact us, please contact us through our website at tylerbursch.com. You can also call us at 951 area code 600-2733. We have offices in Southern California, in Riverside County as well as Orange County, but we practice far distances from us often. So look forward to hearing from you.